What is up, guys? Back with more locals footage. So this week I made some changes to my Cyber Dragon K9 list, and so round one I'm up against Yummy. So he's going first, so he's starting with Prosperity to banish 6 and look at the top 6 cards. So he reveals 3 Imperms, a Cookie, a Drones, and an Engage. He takes the Engage. But thankfully, that means we don't have to worry about Imperm because all 3 of them were down there. So anyway, he takes that, and after he fires off the drones, which he's taking a moment to deliberate over what the first thing he does is, so he's going to fire off the drones, and I respond with a Fool Loss. So he can choose to either commit to the play or not. So he goes straight to summon Cookie and then link into Snatchy to grab the minion from the deck. Instead. So he still gives me a draw, but he is committing to a different line that gives fewer draws. So he then goes into the Cupsy Yummy way, searching for a Cupsy and a Marshmallow, and then discards the Marshmallow. So the Cupsy is then summoned, which will allow him to search for a Yummy card, so he searches Surprise, which will get him back the Marshmallow. The Marshmallow will then add back the Surprise. So from here, I think he makes Lambda with the Marshmallow and the Cupsy. He's just deliberating over his plays, though. So yes, he links those, the Cupsy and the Marshmallow off into Lambda, and then just sets 1 card and passes. This end of main, I tried to Nibiru, but this Lambda was clearly telegraphing a Gamma, or a, I forget what the spell one is called, but the one that negates the spell. So regardless, this wasn't going off, but this does mean that the Gamma is out of the way for the next turn. But it does mean I'm not going to wipe his field. So yeah, not ideal for me. It does get me a draw though, because it summons the driver from the deck. Unfortunately, this might not matter too much. So anyway, he continues to end the main phase. So I'm just reading. But the Gamma and Driver will be banished, so he can add, I think it's Epsilon from the deck to the hand, the one that negates spells. But he doesn't have another Driver in deck, so this is a dead card that he's simply just thinned out of the deck. So for my turn, I start with, because he has 2 cards in hand, I start with Noroi. So Noroi is going to attempt to activate, but he's going to chain the Cupsy here to float into 2 other Yummies. I'm going to chain Called by the Grave, and he's going to chain Surprise here. And I'm going to chain Bell. So my card is going to resolve. He is not going to get any Yummies back. But he is... I'm not sure why he actually got to summon 2 back here, because Called by the Grave negated the Surprise. No, Called by the Grave negated the... Oh, no. That's right, because it shuffled back. So I was going to take... I took out the Snatchy, but he did get to summon back. Right. So I summoned the Izuna from deck and attempt to use the effect to... well, first he has to resolve his card, so he's going to destroy the Noroi, and he gets to draw from the Cupsy. So then Izuna is going to send the Lupus from deck to the graveyard, although this isn't going to matter too much because Yummy doesn't really play into K9's hand and grave effects at all. So I simply go for my hard-drawn Regulus to equip the Noroi from grave, because it's a machine for some reason. So I have some kind of hand trap resilience. but this is quite a feeble board. Because Regulus isn't exactly the greatest of negates. So I take out both the yummies and set one and pass. And so, yeah, this isn't an ideal spot. He still has a token, he still has Lambda, he still has yummies in the hand, so he goes for a Cupsy and goes straight into Snatchy. Or it's a cookie, should I say. So he's going to get the Acro Key from deck. I do Ghost Bell the minion. So yeah, so he grabs the Acro Key from deck with the Snatchy. He synchros off the Snatchy and the token for a Lollipo, I believe. So that's going to get rid of one of my cards. So yeah, I have to negate it with the Regulus here. And then he tags it out. So he now has 4 yummy monsters. So they're all gaining 2000 attack from the minion that he's just added back. So this isn't looking very good for me. I don't know what that card was I chained there, but I think it was an Ash or a Bell. And one of his yummies got mixed into the graveyard, but we fixed this. He realizes. So yeah, so he's just going to poke over everything, and well, the set card, as it always is, it's Power Bond.
So I think I'm
Storming Mirror Force. No. You know what it is? What it always is?
Realistically,
I'm gonna cut it with fucking scissors. I swear to Christ. I'm getting so fed up.
Me with Symbol Skeleton.
I'm getting so fed up of drawing Power Bond. Opening hand.
Love me with Symbol Skeleton. That's...
So he takes game 1. I'm definitely going to start making a compilation, I think, of all the times I draw Power Bond and all the times I get frustrated by it. Especially because it's just... It's such a frustrating thing, but it's also quite comedic that it always seems to happen to me. Enough to kind of joke about it after the fact and kind of laugh at it on video as I review the footage. So game 2, I start with Noroi again. This gets met with an Ash Blossom, and that is going to resolve because my Called by the Grave, well, it's a one-of, isn't it? So I'm not exactly likely to draw it. Case for K9 comes down, but that gets met with Dominus Purge. So that's going to negate the effect of that. So I used Noroi to look at the hand, and it's Acro Key, Minion, and Driver. So I know for a fact that he has bricked. Not an ideal situation for him. So Chaotic Elements comes down, which is going to get me a Jokel. So I know that I can extend here with no repercussions really. Talent comes Thrust comes down to set different dimension ground. Yay, Floodgates. So I know that whatever his top deck is, if it leads to a live play, he's going to lose he's going to be losing the cards that he commits. So I can quite safely pass here with the knowledge that only one of the cards is potentially live in his hand, and it's a Fool Loss. So he passes and Fool Losses me, but I don't need to really grab like special summon from the deck or extra deck because all the K9s are so big. All I need to do is just put enough of them on the board, and I can, because he activated that Fool Loss. Izuna and Lupus are live, so he scoops it up immediately, and we're going to game 3. Alright, so game 3, so I believe he starts again, so he starts with the Engage, and I drop, so he went a bit too fast, so I drop the Perulia and draw phase, and then he drops the Engage. So then he goes straight for the Kagari play, so this will get him the Cupsy Yummy Way, which will allow him to search 2 and then discard. So I believe he's going to get a... I can't remember what he searches. I know he discards the Marshmallow. Yeah, so it's Cookie and Marshmallow. No, Cupsy. I'm completely wrong in how I remember this going down. But he discards a Marshmallow from hand. That's what it was. So he links that away for a Snatchy. So he's going to grab the minion here. So then he's going to surprise summon the Marshmallow from graveyard, and then bounce, and then the Marshmallow will get back the surprise. I believe he is trying to play around the Perulia, but he is going to commit some monsters from his hand. So that he summons the Cupsy to search, and I get to draw one from that. So he grabs the Aqua Key. So he links those two off for... no, he synchros for the Lollipo Yumiway. So that will allow him to summon two back. So I nib here. And this time he does not have a Lambda or a driver to save him from this. I keep making the mistake of putting the Nibiru in the graveyard for some reason. I keep forgetting it gets negated. That it's not being negated. I'm too used to it just not going through. But he links away the token for a Link Spider. In the previous week where this wasn't recorded, he accidentally banished it off of Prosp and lost the game that way. So this week he definitely remembered not to do that. So he summons the I think that's Lollipo. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's the Lollipo. So he gets rid of the Nibiru token, the Nibiru, and he summons a cookie, which gets me another draw, and then he links that away for another Snatchy, and then he just sets one. So so the Nibiru definitely did a decent amount here. It prevented him from going too wide, so to the point where now his field is a Snatchy and a Lollipo. So I'm just refreshing myself on what Snatchy does and what Lollipo does before I decide what my play is. Because I've obviously drawn a couple cards. You can probably catch a glimpse of it here, but my top deck was Power Bond again. So I'm just deliberating on what to do here. I'm just making sure he has the correct number of cards in hand to be able to normal summon a K9. So I normal summon Jokel just to try and prop some kind of response, and I go straight to battle phase to try and punch over the Lollipo. So he does activate surprise here, and I forget what he grabs back, but ultimately I know that activating anything will prompt some kind of response, so the easiest thing is to just try not to activate anything. So he summons the cookie to try and get rid of the Jokel, but I have droplets, so I discard Jokel and Power Bomb, so he can't respond with any spell or monster effects. So effectively neutralizing the other two interruptions here. So I managed to get rid of the Lollipo while also neutralizing the Snatchy, and obviously neutralizing the cookie's effect to get rid of the Jokel in the first place. So then main phase 2, I get the Lantern. The Lantern will then summon itself and the Jokel from the graveyard. It will then grab me the case for K9, and then I'll also activate that to grab another Jokel. Since I haven't actually used Jokel's effect to summon itself in another level 5 yet. So I summon the Ripper and use the Detach to grab Noroi, and then I'm going to activate Jokel to summon both. So I use the Jokel to look at the Noroi to look at hand, just so that I know what I'm working with on for the follow-up turn. So then I activate Realm, so now I'm going to go through finally go through the Cyber Dragon lines of this deck. Yeah, so up until this point, up until game 3, I hadn't actually resolved a single Cyber Dragon side of the card, unless you count summoning hard summoning Regulus. So I make Clockwork Knight, grab Clockwork Knight because Floodgates, yay. The Chimera dumps the Worm. The Worm will dump Hertz to grab it to summon itself back, grab the Realm back. The Hertz will grab the Cyber Dragon, So next I'm deliberating on how I approach this. The Jokel and the one of the Jokels and the Noroi cannot be used as for a light, but I can make the Quinquery. Although I did misplay here because I was supposed to overlay the Noroi so that I could have two machines to make Nova. But I then remember Clockwork Knight is making everything a machine anyway, so I detach the worm, summon the worm back, overlay from Infinity, use the effect to take the... use the effect to take the Snatchy here. No, I use it to take the cookie. I then go... oh, yes, I link off the Clockwork Knight and the Quinquery for SP to banish the Snatchy. So he's going to attempt to activate the Akakui here. The minion here. I do detach and negate the activation and destroy. And then I overlay the last two level 5s for... I believe I make Nash Knight here. No, it's the Valon instead. Since that allows me to flip anything face down. Since he activated the monster effect, I then thrust for... I don't know what I was going to thrust for. I can't remember, but he concedes by this point. Right, so round 2, I'm against Mitsurugi. I believe this is pure Mitsurugi. So I won the die roll, and my hand is abysmal. He does drop the Fuwa loss, but I knew what my play was already. A good old T-set pass. I believe it is Chimera and Power Bond that I had set face down. So he does activate pre-prep, and I droll. So he searches the Habakiri in the mirror, and I droll that. So he isn't going to be getting much more value out of his Mitsurugis at this point. So this is going to create an interesting game state, because all he can really do is mirror to tribute Futsu and summon the Habakiri. He attacks into the Chimera result dumps the worm, and then I believe he just passes here. So he sets 1 and then passes. So on my turn, I believe I'm trying to remember what actually happens here. I just remember this was a bit of a painful game. So I summon Cyber Dragon, I activate Worm to dump something. I believe I just dump Core. To summon itself. Yeah, I dump the Core. So this all goes completely uncontested. So I just overlay straight into Nova and Infinity. And I use the Infinity to take the Habakiri, and then I just attack directly, because this is literally all I can do. So that's 2900 Infinity. And then, yeah, I just pass the turn. So then he is now on the... So somehow now he is on the back foot and the one T-set passing. Well, not quite a T-set, but you know. So now he's just setting and passing, and now I'm just attacking with Infinity. So I just attack and pass, and he draws, and he's going to set another card. And it'll be a rinse and repeat. Because the draw really disrupted him really, really badly in the game 1. So, but then on my following turn, I finally top deck something good. It's the Izuna. So the Izuna is going to send the Lupus, but now I actually have enough damage to start an extra monster to start attacking directly. So now he's taken two lots of 2/9. So that is 5/8 he's taken so far. But unfortunately, he can still do nothing but set and pass. So at this point, I am 100% in the driver's seat. All I need to do is just keep on. I can just keep extending here. So yeah, I just attack, and that's the game. His set card was a Super Poly, but I guess his extra deck wasn't in. He was saying this during the game, but what I was summoning at no point was viable for a Super Poly, so he just couldn't activate it at all. But he goes first in game 2, so he activates Extrav. So he's going to banish 6 randoms, and get a draw 2. And I believe I do not have draw here, unlike the previous game, so draw is not going to be saving me here. But I believe that's the, oh god, Mitsurugi names. It's not Saji. Haramasa, I believe. Or Aramasa. So I activate the Fool Loss here as he attempts to summon from deck. Yeah, so he activates the Habakiri, so I chain the Fool Loss here. He summons Saji, tributes Saji, then searches the prayers. No, he actually searches for the negate trap. I forget the name, but so he's going to search that because he doesn't plan on playing into the card that much. But then I draw instead because I figure it would be better here to curb the amount he can play, the amount that he can search, because that's how Mitsu really plays. Well, this was probably a mistake, but because I probably needed the draws a little bit more. But he ends on the one that discards and board wipes, and then he makes Tornado Dragon. While that is a bit of a puzzling one, it is actually a problem. So I start with Izuna during the end of main. So I summon Izuna. I try to activate the Lupus, but he bells it, so there won't be any rank 5 for me on the opponent's turn. I start my turn by normal summoning Noroi, attempting to summon from deck. And he is going to use the trap here, so he tributes off the God, I forget the name, the board wipey one to negate the effect and destroy it. And then he's going to summon it back. Then he's going to be able to summon back and board wipe. So that's my field neutralized, but I'm not done. I have another Izuna, so I can then summon Lupus. So I overlay for, I believe I make Ripper here. Yeah. So I make sure to detach the Izuna so that the Ripper remains untargetable, just in case he has a Veiler or anything like that. But if you caught a glimpse of the Nibiru there in his hand, it is going to completely neutralize the Izuna later. Or the Izuna is going to neutralize the Nib, whichever way you look at it. But anyway, so I search for Lantern, I use Lantern to grab back the Noroi, and I also use the Lantern to grab Case for K9. He's a bit new to Mitsurugi, so he hasn't been using the discard effect too much, but he remembers to use it here, so he forces me to discard. I can't remember what it was because the camera was my graveyard is out of camera shot. I believe it was something not too important. I think it was a droplet actually. So I activate Clockwork Knight because I hard drew it, and he Tornado Dragons this because obviously that is telegraphing that his board is going to be Chimera Text, but that's actually bait to make sure that the case resolves successfully, because that is ultimately what I'm going for. The Clockwork Knight being in the graveyard means I can also search Regulus with it. So I'm just deliberating on my search here, and I believe I searched Jokul because that's the only logical search from here. I've used Izuna this turn, I've normal summoned Noroi this turn, I don't have another Lantern, Lupus is in the graveyard, so it could, I believe it is the Jokul that I search here, but I don't think I'm actually in a position where I can use it to summon itself in another level 5. So I actually search another Noroi as follow-up. I also banish the Clockwork Knight and discard the Noroi with Clockwork Knight to search the Regulus, and then use the Regulus to equip it, to summon itself and equip the Noroi. Seeing the Regulus, he does try to Nibiru here, and I obviously negate the effect. So I activate Regulus to summon itself and the and equip the Noroi. So I'm about to enter the battle phase here. Although whether this was the right play or not, I'm not sure. But I'm going for max damage, but the Mitsurugi is really big. It's a 3200. So with my K9s gaining 900 each, my Ripper is in a position where it can beat over, where it can crash into the Mitsurugi. So I opt to do that since it's basically spent at this point. So then I take out the Tornado Dragon and attack with the other two K9s. And then I think I just make a Nash Knight and then pass the turn. My mentality here is that there is no other interruption I can really make that is better served than the Nash Knight, but ultimately what happens on the next turn isn't going to really help. So maybe the Valon would have been better, but the Valon can not stop cards from being tributed, is the problem. It doesn't really deal with Mitsurugis in the same way that it would deal with the Yummy. So he activates a Prosp, so he banishes 6 to, and I believe one of the cards there is Talents. You can see it's below the Ash and the pre-prep, and ultimately that's what he chooses to take here. So yeah, he takes that, and so he's going to force out the interactions on my board. He activates the prayers. I believe that's prayers anyway. And I think I opt to negate that with Regulus. But that obviously plays into talents. Although I think what I do here is also a mistake, because he's going to activate talents to take my Nash Knight. I should really have chained my Nash Knight effect, because I can at least stop it from then becoming a threat on my own turn. Because I have the Lupus Engrave to stop myself from losing, but because I left the Nash Knight completely, like with all of its materials, he can just take it. So he activates the Mitsurugi Ritual spell, I forget the name, to summon Futsu. So he's just deliberating what he summons. I think the answer is what he summons is obvious. No, I think that's prayers, isn't it? Yeah. So he summons the Saji. He grabs the ritual spell from the deck, activates it, and to summon the Futsu by tributing a Ameno, Murakuruma, that's what it's called. Murakuruma from deck. So I'm just making sure, even though they are going to be the same level, I'm just checking that they are the same level. I don't know what was going through my head in that moment for some reason, but so I'm just making sure that they're the same level, because the ritual has to tribute the exact levels. He also activates Mirror to summon the ritual summon the Murakuruma from grave by tributing the Futsu, and the Futsu will get him to search. And also resummon itself. So he's just doing the maths here. And he summons the Aramasa, switches to attack mode. And yeah, so he is going to attempt to enter battle phase, so end of main I have to do this, but he can then just beat over it anyway. Right, so game 3. So I make him go first, which he wasn't expecting, so he loaded in all the board breakers, but so did I. So he activates the prayers to search the Habakiri, and then uses Habakiri, but I chain Fuwalos. The card was a bit glued to my hand this game, so he can't avoid giving me a draw from deck because there is no Ash Blossom to stop it. But the Saji will get him a draw, and then yet again I have a draw as well, which I just drew into. So he uses the Mitsurugi ritual, tributes the Habakiri to summon a Murakumo from deck. And I believe that is basically the turn. So the Murakumo is strong, but it's not as strong as Lightning Storm. So he does choose to make me discard, but this is basically the end of the game, unless he has some kind of interruption. Because I also have Norai. So Norai is going to summon the Joker from deck. The Joker is going to attempt to activate to search. He does have a draw here, so that is going to stop me from extending too far. Because K9, while people say that K9 doesn't lose to draw, it is definitely hampered by draw. It has 4 or 5 cards to search, so it's not nothing. But I do have the Dizzablaster in hand to extend a little bit. So I'm just deliberating basically on how I achieve game here, because it's an open field, and this might be the only opportunity I have to actually achieve it. I don't know. I keep doing it, and I'm not sure why I keep doing it. It's probably because of other cards like Clockwork Knight that do this, but for some reason I keep summoning the K9 off of Norai in defense position, even though it can't. So I'm just checking what his hand is. I see the bell. For some reason he doesn't bell the lantern coming down, so the lantern's going to summon itself and the Jokel from the graveyard. And he doesn't bell this for some reason, even though I just used Norai to check his hand and see the bell. But I guess in that moment he had just forgotten that that's an effect that summons from the graveyard. So at this point I'm just thinking about how, because this is currently like approximately 6,000. The Jokel and the lantern are 2k each. The Noroi is 2,200, and then the Dizzablaster is 500. But I figure that I can't achieve game here, so no matter what, because I can't search. So what I do is I simply make Infinity with the Noroi and the Dizzablaster, because ultimately it's the same. It would be the exact same amount of damage, 2,700, and I just make Nash Knight and pass the turn. So, and hope that this is enough. Knowing what his hand is, hopes that this is enough. And ultimately, I think it is. Because he had the 2 ritual spells in hand. He had 2 ritual spells in hand and a bell. So what his top deck is basically everything here. Because he needs enough fodder to tribute to ritual summon something from the graveyard, and he needs a ritual to be able to summon. It's the Aramasa, and he just so I can just negate that, and that's the end of the game. So I am now 2-0 in the locals, going into round 3. Alright, so round 3 and the final match of the day, I'm up against Melodious. So he wins the die roll and opts to go first, as one would do. I believe he starts with Ostinato, the one that Fusion summons using materials from deck. So I Fool lost this because for some reason it is glued to my hand. And he dumps I think it's Couplet and I don't know the names of these. So he summons I think it's Baka from deck, from the extra deck. So the Baka is going to be allowed to summon from the deck, which is going to net me another draw. Whatever he summons allows him to add something back from grave. He normal summons it, uses the effect to, I think it searches. Yeah, it searches the other one, which summons. So when it's added, it can summon Melodious from grave. Then he pendulum scales it. He tries to activate the effect, but I Ghost Ogre it. That effect searches, I believe. So once again, Ghost Ogre kind of coming up pretty decently here. So he fusions into the other. I think that's it's the fusion monster that can banish any number of Melodiouses to bounce the same number of cards. It's very strong. So he gets his Pendulum Scales reset here, and he Pendulum Summons 1. He links these two into an IP, which gets me another draw. He uses the Baka to resummon. He then what he summons also lets him add back to hand, but I nib him, so the IP is going to go, but but he is going to be able to dodge the Nibiru with the fusion. But the board is a little more neutralized now. I make a mistake here. I forget that Nibiru is on the field, so I try to summon Cyber Dragon, but can't, as promptly pointed out. I normal summon Scrap Recycler. This is allowed to go off, so I send Chimera and I send Worm. So from here, I'm just reading the fusion because it's a very difficult card to play around, but nevertheless I'm going to attempt to play around it. So I special summon Dizzblaster since there's a column that no cards occupy, and I attempt to use Worm to try and summon itself back from grave by dumping the core. I believe the Hertz is in my hand, annoyingly. So I overlay these into, I believe I make Ripper, yeah. So at this point he is going to try and send it back, but he runs into another Ghost Ogre, so I'm at least going to get rid of the fusion. So the fusion is going to allow him to do something when it's destroyed. I believe it summons something back. So I'm just reading it to make sure I understand what it does. But he has gotten rid of the Ripper. So I called by the grave the fusion, and good old one of, and then so from here I think I have a clear board state to go into. So I have a Jokel in hand, so I reveal it and the Cyber Dragon to special summon both, and I can overlay both back into Ripper, so I can continue playing basically. So I can detach the lantern to summon to grab the case from deck, then grab the lantern from deck, or the other way around. Yeah, so I grab lantern, use it to summon itself and the Jokel back. I use the Jokel to search another. Yeah, I don't know why I searched another Jokel there, but anyway. So game 2, he opts to start. I kind of anticipated this, but I did also side in just in case he maybe wanted to make me go first. He uses the Pendulum to search, and I droll. This isn't a very strong droll, though, because Melodious, it searches kinda, but it can very much play through droll. So he rescales the Pendulum monster and can't use the effect to search, but he can use the Baka to summon from deck. So he's going to, I think it's the other, no, I can't remember the names of them, but he uses one that, he summons one that re-adds something from grave back to hand. He links these two off into IP. And then he uses the Baka's effect to summon from deck, to summon something back. He does attempt to use the fusion spell to reshuffle and draw, but I remind him that he's under draw, so he can't do that. So he just gets back one of the monsters from the graveyard. But this is decently strong. He also summons one from hand. I believe this one either boosts or protects, but it has a fusion effect to. So he summons. I can't remember which one, what its name is, but it can banish 3 from grave. So even though this field seems somewhat unassuming, it's actually more difficult to play around than it seems, especially when factoring in hand traps. So I summon Norai. He orange lights it, which is definitely a problem because that's my normal summon. And from here, I'm going to attempt to thrust for a different dimension ground. So this is... no, actually, I think I drew the different dimension ground. I attempt to thrust for chaotic elements. I do make a misinterpretation of what Chaotic Elements' graveyard effect is, so I'm acting here based on thinking that I can just shuffle back, that I can just take control of any card. So we just confirmed that is not how it works, and it doesn't go off in this case. Always remember to read your cards. Fully, that is. So I will not be using the graveyard effect here. So instead I'll activate Jokel to reveal itself and Lupus to summon. He's going to attempt to IP at this point, I think. No, he uses the fusion to banish 3 from grave. Then he also IPs to link it off to summon SP, and he's going to banish the Jokel. This will curb my ability to fuse, and he also gets the bottom deck and draw from the fusion spell in the graveyard. So that, I'm just going to set one and pass. So that is my different dimension ground set. I don't believe he has a huge amount to do at this present moment. So he just passes. I have the Lupus, and I top deck a Fualos. So I'm kind of deliberating what I do, because this Lupus by itself is not putting a huge amount of pressure on the board. So I need to get damage in, and I also need to get an interaction in. So what I believe I end up doing here is I attack directly with the Lupus, and then I normal summon Perulia, the Fualos. Or I summon the Fualos, then I attack directly, and then main phase 2 I make the SP. So I at least have the Lupus in the graveyard to put some pressure on and summon it back, and I have the SP on the field. So he uses the fusion spell to try and fuse, and the different dimension ground is changed so that everything gets banished, but this is ultimately not as impactful as I was hoping it would be. So he summons Baka, gets the one of the pendulums from the deck, and ultimately he can realistically just beat over it, which is not ideal. But I do banish the SP and the Baka in response to the activation of the Pendulum Monster effect. So at least the SP cannot be beaten over, because he dared to activate a card. So he searches a Melodious hit. The other Pendulum here, when it's added, it allows him to summon from graveyard. And then he also puts in the Scale, which will allow it to search, which will happen later. The monster he summons adds back something to hand. So then he summons that, and then he gets... he puts some damage on board, I think. This isn't game yet, but I'm definitely on the back foot here. So I attempt to summon back the Lupus here, but he does, at the end of main, but he does talent to take it, so that's not doing me any good. And he is just going to link it off for his own, for his Lambda. Once again, just like round 1, telegraphing that there is a Psy-frame in his hand. Not that I can really do much about it at this point, because my Lupus is now banished and I'm in a top deck war. But the top deck is Cyber Dragon Core, but that is going to get gammered, as telegraphed. I can try to capitalize on it somewhat. So I try to use the SP, after reading Lambda for a moment, I use the SP to get rid of the core at least, and banish something from his own field. So I banish core and the Baka. So the Psy-frame resolves regardless. So that's my turn ruined. So I am literally on an SP and a Dream at this point. So I attack over the one of the Melodiouses that I can. The end phase, the 2 monsters return to the field. And from here, I think I'm pretty much cooked. So he is just checking his own resources. He blindsides me a little bit because I wasn't expecting this, but he summons an Underworld Goddess here with my SP, so that is very much cements the end of the game. And then he just needs to extend a little bit, and then he has game. So another Baka is summoned. The Baka will summon someone from the deck. and one of the pendulum monsters will rescale itself. What he summons gets something back from grave. He puts another pendulum scale on. Pendulum summons one, which gets him back orange light. Just, as the final nail in the coffin. At this point, though, I'm just reading Underworld Goddess and what it does. And regardless, it's game over. So, I am going to game 3. So, game 3, I opt to make him start in my typical fashion, and I start with Perulia in draw phase. So, he activates I forget what that is, but it summons from deck, so I'm also chaining Foolos. So double Charmy, great. Really good for going second. So no matter what he does, really, as long as if he's summoning from hand or deck, or extra deck, he is giving me a draw. So he summons one of the pendulums that lets him search.
So, for some reason the footage stops here. I don't know why my camera decided to stop recording. No one bumped it or anything, and I didn't stop recording myself until after the game was actually finished. But the upshot of it is this. My opponent ended on just SP under the threat of double Charmy, but I already had full board breakers sided in, and one of those was Lightning Storm, so that easily took care of the SP, and then I was able to put enough K9s on the board to take the game. So, as we can see from the deck list, all of the Cyber Dragon side of things has been kind of watered down and is all one-offs now. And Noroi is now at 3. So I wanted to try this approach because it seemed I wanted to see what the difference was, really. Starting with Noroi means that the deck is less susceptible to droll from the outset until you start searching. Whereas core, you start with core, and if you start with core and you search for realm immediately, or you start with emergency and you get drolled, the combo just stops. None of your K9s can function either, because you can't exactly search with Jokul, you can't search with Lantern, you can't search with Ripper, you can't search with Case, or Chaotic Elements. So starting with Noroi also allows you to get a feel of the opponent's hand. Obviously, if you start with Case or Chaotic Elements, it's still a problem. But overall, starting with Noroi feels less bad into Droll. And because of Mitsurugi being a force in the format again, Droll is now also at the forefront of the format. So this is also why Chord Bite and Crossout have made their way back into the deck. A consideration for the future, Ogre obviously came up against Yummy, for instance, and is somewhat strong into that kind of matchup. However, there's a distinct lack of Dracotail at that locals in particular, whereas on Thursdays I have another locals which is very heavy on Dracotail, and Ghost Ogre does diddly squat in that matchup. So I'm thinking it's time to cut Ogre. Sometimes it's like it usually is either really terrible or really good. And unfortunately in the current meta, you can't really settle for a card that is either one or the other based on the matchup. You need hand traps that are good into the widest spread of matchups possible. So Ogre is definitely being cut after this. I think Imperm is going to be put in, partially because this means it can't be hit by Called by the Grave, unlike Veiler. It's also live during my own turn as long as I control no cards, so it's good to stop the Arthalion from adding back everything they've committed to its fusion summon with Phymena. So that is definitely a consideration as well. Overall, the deck felt like it performed well, but there are like 11 Garnets in the deck now, so that is also a problem. As you probably saw from the profile, drawing into Power Bond is still definitely a problem. While Clockwork Knight is a very, very oppressive floodgate in this current format, it doesn't really hit Mitsurugi much. It hits Yummy quite a bit because they can't make Snatchy, they have to deal with it first. Which, I mean, the main deck tools aren't necessarily prepped for it. But it's drawing either of drawing Power Bond or Clockwork Knight is not ideal. Drawing Scrap Recycler and Regulus is also not ideal because you search those as part of the combo. The only one that is actually fine to draw, really, is Realm and Dizzablaster, because Dizzablaster is just an extender at the end of the day. The combo to search it is usually done via Cliffort Genius, but drawing it is not actually an issue at all, because it allows you to, if your Noroi gets ashed, for instance, or Veiled or Impermed, and you have Dizzablaster in hand, you can at least put that on the field and still go for a rank 5. And continue on like nothing really happened. So it's not the worst card to draw. Part of me wonders whether it should go to higher numbers, but I feel like I would hate it at higher numbers. But anyway, where I go from here with the deck, I'm not sure. I wanted to try this approach just out of curiosity, because I'd seen people asking me about it, because I was approaching it from more of a Cyber Dragon perspective. Although, what I dislike about it is that it is basically K9 with Cyber Dragon and not the other way around. The significance of which is really rooted in how much Cyber Dragon stuff are you doing compared to how much K9 stuff you're doing. The K9 being the dominant engine means that Cyber Dragon side looks like this, is all one-ofs, and all of them are potential bricks, really. Whereas before, they were the driving force and bridged into the K9 side. They can still do that here, but you don't really want to draw core in your opening hand along with Noroi. Because the two are both normal summons and only activate on normal summon, they do clash. This is 45 cards, so I might bump it up to higher numbers, or maybe thin out to lower numbers, but lower numbers means higher brick factor with all of these bricks in the deck. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think of this new format now that we've gotten rid of all, well, not all, but most of the oppressive floodgates that have been festering in the format for the past, well, since they hit Malice and Ryziel. So, with that, I shall catch you guys in the next one.